I bet you never saw the day where corporate companies would start using podcasts, but in this video, I'm going to share the secret behind why some of the biggest companies and some smaller companies are taking advantage of this new tool, and not just for the traditional marketing purposes that we might know of and use for ourselves, but for the purpose of improving employee retention and transforming company culture. Before we dive in, I'm Misbah Haque. In 2016, I started my very first podcast out of my childhood bedroom, and within a year, that show landed me my dream job coaching Fortune 1000 executives and professional athletes in the Bay Area. I've also gone on to launch shows that have done over 1 million downloads, and now I share things on this channel that I'm learning with my consulting clients and with my own shows in real time. Anyway, let's dive into what made me want to cover this in the first place. So I was listening to a podcast with Nathan Barry, who is the founder of Kit, formerly known as ConvertKit. And I'm a paying customer, I'm a big fan. And so I got excited when I heard him say this because I was like, yes, I've worked with multiple companies and creators at this point who are doing this. It's cool to see somebody like Nathan talk about how awesome it's been for his company. I don't think that you have to be a big company or big creator to learn something from this. I don't think you even have to start an internal podcast to learn from this. I think there are some things that you can take, store it with you, and apply it in a different way. So I'm going to use Nathan Barry as an example for the sake of learning purposes here. So if we take a look at someone like Nathan, he is a founder out of Boise, Idaho. I'm sure that when ConvertKit was a company that was a couple people, right, or a team that was under about a dozen people, things were very manageable. You knew exactly who was doing what, and it didn't feel like such a big team where, okay, and we need to have meetings and town halls and all these communications that we normally hear about in the corporate sector. This is very similar to when there is a gym owner who starts a gym. And they're the coach, they're the personality that people really love and they want direction from. And so people pay attention, right? But the gym owner is a gym owner. They have many other things to do. They have other processes and things to run in order to keep the gym open. Similarly, Nathan was probably in a position as he grew from 12 to 20 to 30 team members, 50 team members, where, okay, now there's a lot of people coming in. I want to keep the people that are coming into my company. I don't want them to go to some place like MailChimp or the next hot email marketing software that comes out, because he's probably put a lot of money, time, energy, knowledge, training into each of the team members that actually joins Kit, right? So there's a big investment that's happening from Nathan's end, and this would happen on a smaller level as well, right? If you were a gym owner that you're bringing on a new coach to kind of coach inside the gym, you kind of want to make sure that everybody else who is an actually paying customer of the gym would respect this coach, would actually enjoy this coach. They wouldn't be feeling like, oh, I'm missing out on the fact that the gym owner's doing billing or something else right now. So of course, as Nathan's company grew beyond 12 people, I'm sure that people wanted more face time. Before, when there's only 6, 7, 8 people on the team, you feel pretty connected to the CEO and founder. You can kind of just ask them questions. You can get FaceTime. You learn through osmosis. There's all this valuable learning that's kind of happening in the early days of a company. And then as the company grows, the CEO founder gets busier and busier, and they aren't able to give you as much FaceTime or even talk time, maybe, right? Maybe you have some one-on-ones and things like that scheduled, but then eventually the CEO is too busy for it. So now the people that are under the CEO are who you're going to be reporting to. And of course, this is totally fine, right? This is just the structure of how companies and corporate places work and how things are done. But one of the things that begins to happen is that initial investment that draws some people into the company. So for example, coming into a company like Kit, Nathan is somebody who is the face of the brand now. And so you look at Nathan and how he is, and you're like, wow, yeah, I want to work there. That sounds awesome. This culture, their mission, their ethos, their philosophy seems very aligned with me. And so these internal podcasts are a way to preserve that voice, because of course the CEO founder has very limited talk time. You are already busy throughout the day. You're probably making time already for these town halls and meetings to kind of stay pretty connected with your team. But as a company grows, it feels more and more surface level. It feels like, oh, this is just so structured. This is so planned. You're not being truthful here. You're not being fully honest and revealing what's on your mind, right? And so a podcast, remember, the form of it enables the function in our minds to go, oh yeah, podcast equals trust because people are talking casually. People are talking openly. There may not be, the CEO standing on a stage in front of a PowerPoint. The way that they talk in that format is going to be a little different than the way that they talk maybe on their internal podcast, right? They can be a little looser. And at the same time, knowing that this communication is not going to go beyond the company, it's not going to be viewed by any external sources, no clients, no leads, none of that. It is simply preserved for people who are on the team. It creates kind of this safe space that allows you to dive into topics and things that you normally would not have time to even discuss. On an all hands meeting, it may not come up, right? It might be something that people want to discuss, but, especially addressing in a big group format feels weird, or you just can't go as deep. And so with a podcast, yes, this might be more of Nathan's time. So Nathan is investing more time into recording his show. But what does this do? The people who really love and respect Nathan, want to work for Nathan, or even maybe are on the fences, right? About like, oh, I don't know if I want to still work here. When they get to have an hour talk time with somebody who is the CEO, that feels really good. It feels like, wow, I'm actually getting access here. And it reveals how the CEO and founder thinks versus before, let's say there's no podcast, no content out whatsoever. Okay, you might view your CEO as just a suit, just the way that like we look at CEOs of really ginormous, crazy companies. Like they're almost not viewed as fully human to some extent, right? They're looked at as like the man, the institution to some extent. But of course, when you start creating content and you start sharing things about your life, things that you're interested in, casual things that come up, okay, you find out, oh, okay, cool, Nathan has kids. Oh, wow, he still lives in Boise, Idaho. Like all these tiny details start to form a character and a personality around the host, which in this case is the CEO. All these things are very advantageous because if you take a look at the culture of a company, it is typically very downstream of the CEO and founder. And this is very true if you look at just gyms. The culture and atmosphere of a gym typically trickles down from the owner, right? So if the owner is very hardcore, like guess what? All the branding, all the messaging, all the other coaches, they're also going to reflect that feeling of being super hardcore. If you've got a very welcoming environment, right? That typically starts with the leader. So the person who's at the top that just is a part of their personality. They're very welcoming, they're very accommodating, and that rubs off on the people that are going to be coming to work for you. Or at least you hope it does, right? And beyond just the existing employees who you're constantly selling, right? So somebody who is the head of their company, they're not just selling new customers, they're constantly selling their team on why they should continue to stay there. So each episode that you are actually recording is not just there for the people who are already there, but you're also making this for future people that come into your company. So maybe as a part of their onboarding process, instead of just boring Loom videos and manuals that they're going through, you get to give them a series of episodes. Here's the back catalog that we want you to consume. These 20 episodes will give you a very deep understanding into what we value as a company and our vision and all that good stuff. So think about that, 20 hours with the CEO in an environment where he is not being pretentious, he's not being fake, he's being as himself and as human as possible. So in this case, when people join Kit, guess what? They're excited to be around Nathan maybe or learn from him, but they quickly realize, okay, there's so many people here, I'm not going to get that much access to Nathan. So all of a sudden what it does is it opens up the opportunity of, oh, well, let me consume his podcast. Let's see how he talks here. Is it the same as how he talks on his external one, or is it different? Is he just as nice, or is he different on this internal one? You have all these things that the employee might be thinking as they're consuming this. And again, episode by episode, you are building bits and bits of trust where that 20 episodes that the employee consumed, or maybe even let's say 3. Okay, if they consumed 3 episodes that were 3 hours, that is more talk time than they would ever have in real life, maybe with the CEO or founder of that company. So if you are a part of leadership at the company, what this does is it saves you a tremendous amount of time, because you can put so much work into really thinking, what would a new team member want to learn about? What would be helpful for them to know? What would make their time more enjoyable here? And you get to do a deep dive on that thing in a way that just wouldn't be possible if you were doing it one at a time with people. And this comes back to a concept that I harp on constantly, which is that podcasting is excellent for anybody who has limited talk time. So if you are a coach or a consultant, like, okay, I might be talking for 4 or 5 hours a day. I might be emailing for another couple hours a day. So an extra 15 minutes of talk time or 30 minutes of talk time that I can create through documenting into a microphone or documenting into a camera, that is something that becomes an asset. So I hope you can see how, from leadership's perspective, from the business owner's perspective, why this is such an essential component, especially once you've surpassed a certain team size. This becomes even more important. And if we zoom outside of just Kit, there are companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars that have thousands of employees all over the world, where they want some connective tissue. They want something beyond a town hall or some all hands meeting that gets leaked. There's all of these crazy things that at that level they have to think about. And so one of the best things that they can do for defensibility is create a stronger culture, create a stronger brand and environment where people want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of the mission and vision. And so this is an example of that, where companies like Kit, companies like, let's say, HubSpot. It's also important to note that if you can get somebody to know, like, and trust you, even if there is another brand that makes more sense, maybe financially, you're not going to get them to make the switch. I used to see this in, my gym days all the time, where it's like the community is so strong and people have really fallen in love with the people there, that despite a gym across the street that is offering more, stays open later, it's maybe $100 cheaper, the members will not leave. There will be some that fall off and make the trade-off, but if the culture's strong enough, the community's strong enough, they won't leave, because they don't want to leave the community and the culture. They believe in the mission. Versus when you don't have any of that, you don't have any character built, there's no narrative or story built around that gym and why you're there. Like, it won't take you more than 5 seconds to decide, oh yeah, let me just go over across the street. Why am I here? Think about the difference between a really big gym like Gold's Gym, right? Where you don't really know who the owner is technically. It's just kind of, it operates in a very, corporate manner. Versus, let's say you go to a yoga studio, maybe who owns the yoga studio, especially if it's not a franchise of some sort. And when you know that person, especially if they've been nice to you, kind to you, they've facilitated a great environment, you've had a great experience going to that yoga class, guess what? You're now invested into that studio owner as a character, probably more than you are compared to, let's say, the owner of Planet Fitness, because we don't even know who that is, right? The concept of internal podcasts is going to get bigger and bigger. You're going to have big companies, small companies, they're already doing it, but this is going to increase continually. The coolest thing is it doesn't just have to be the founder. So the people you'll often notice in these internal podcasts, it's not just the founder, it's the founder and one other person who's helping facilitate that the audience will trust and like as well. But over time, you can incorporate other team members. So if you want to highlight and showcase somebody new who just joined the team and they're, you want to make sure the rest of your team really knows, likes, and trusts them, guess what? You having that new team member on the pod and being able to talk to them not only makes the person who just joined feel really good, right? You feel noticed, acknowledged, highlighted, but it also provides an opportunity for the other team members that are there to get to know more about this person as well. And we just know that in team environments, this stuff makes a big difference, right? People don't really quit jobs, they quit people. And so anything you are doing to improve the connection between people goes a long way. And the truth is that podcasts are a wonderful way to do that because it's something you can consume on your own time. Okay. If you want to, let's say, stalk who you're going to be reporting to and they have been a guest on this internal podcast, guess what? You're going to go listen to that as fast as you can. You're going to be trying to get a sense for how this person is. What can I expect? And so that is just a much more dynamic way for somebody to do that and for you to make yourself available for that to be done instead of maybe just a, 3-sentence bio that is on a website or some formal conference that you got to speak at where it's like you're not really being yourself the way that you will be when this person is interacting with you daily in a work environment. If you are a smaller brand, smaller company where your team size is, couple people, maybe just a dozen people, I think that this still can be effective because even if you never grow beyond a dozen people, what this does is it creates an asset for you internally that could be similar to SOPs. The way that you might hand over a Loom video for an SOP. Well, what if you got to embed a podcast episode that was done on a certain piece of the process along with that SOP, right? So there are all sorts of ways that you can repurpose some of these things. And I think simply even the process of recording them and talking it out allows you to uncover things that probably just get missed in your onboarding meeting, in your manuals, in things that, people won't consume and read. Versus a podcast, it feels fun. It feels quick. It feels easy. It feels like, I'm going to learn more about the vibe here. I think that goes a long way. If you can make someone new feel comfortable, you can make them feel excited, you can make them feel like, wow, I can see myself being here for a long time. That reason alone makes it well worth it for a company to start their internal podcast. So I hope this breakdown was useful. Make sure to check out some of the free tools and things I have in the description below. And of course, drop a comment with what you thought. I appreciate you taking the time hanging out, and I will see you on the next one.